If you wanted to do that sometime in the future, just, shoot me an email and we can get that set up.
Great. I saw that in your bio. Thank you so much. Aaron, I made you co-host, so you should be able to, looks like you've got the recording going. Watch for the people coming in here. I'm trying to keep an eye on everybody because I'm going to get started here in just a minute or two. Connie Herman, did you figure out your audio issue yet? There, I can see you. There she is. Can you hear me, Connie? Connie Herman? No?
She's on mute.
She's, well, she's adjusting her camera. All righty, we'll get Casey in here.
And Scott, you can hear me okay? The volume is okay?
Yeah, everything's great on my end.
Okay.
I've got it fine. I've got it fine here.
It's killing me. Is that a real cat or just a silhouette of a cat? On Gladys's.
Gladys, yeah, I think it probably is a background image. It looks like a
background image. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought, I was like, wow, that cat has not moved.
All righty, I am going to put up our logo slide so I can thank everybody here. So hang on one second. Okay, very good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is not Jane Young, obviously. I am substituting for Jane today. She's on I was going to call it a quasi-vacation because she's babysitting some not quite double-digit number of grandchildren. So I'm sure it's a wonderful time, but having just spent a weekend with my 2.5-year-old grandson, only one grandchild, I'm sure she's busy beyond belief. But at any rate, welcome everybody, and we'll continue to admit folks as they trickle in here before we get up to 10 o'clock. Welcome to the fifth in our series called Just Breathe, We've Got You, which we started last year. And we want to thank, as we always do, our two sponsors, AARP of Virginia and Navy Federal Credit Union, who've really made this possible and provided our speakers and a lot of great sessions. And so before I forget, because I promised Jane I would do this, we have one final session in the series planned for Tuesday, June 8th, so roughly a month from now. And we'll be joined, we'll have two presentations, one from Anne-Marie Ferdinando, who does our Navy Federal financial presentation. She'll be talking about financial fitness, our health and money, always a good thing. And we will have an AARP presentation on paying for caregiving expenses, which obviously a critical issue for many of us that are potentially sandwiched between older and younger generations, or with friends and relatives that require expensive caregiving. So those should be great presentations. We'll get more information out, registration links, etc., as we move forward. So what we're going to do today is we have two great presentations, and we're going to start in a few minutes with Suba Saty, who is joining us, and I'm going to give him a full introduction in a minute. He's going to be talking to us about downsizing and decluttering, a great topic, obviously. And then that's going to be followed again by Anne-Marie Ferdinando, who's actually on vacation in upstate New York, and she's joining us through the genius of Zoom today, as if she were here in Northern Virginia. And she's going to be talking about financial retirement guidelines, also critical, managing your money before and after retirement, which is always critical. And the way we'll manage the presentations as we have in the past is I will mute everybody except the speaker while we are in the middle of the presentation. You can put questions in chat and I'll pull them out and make sure the speaker gets them at the end, or we'll unmute everybody at the end as we usually do and allow you to ask questions on Zoom of the speakers. And we have roughly 10 or 15 minutes at the end of each presentation for questions, and we'll hopefully be able to get all the questions answered. In any event, so those of you, most of you have probably been with us before, but we always like to give just a little background on Shepherd Center before we get started, in case you're new to us. The first thing you need to know about us is we have changed our name again. Many of you knew us originally as the Shepherd Center of Oakton, Vienna, where we have been for 22 plus years now. About a little less than 2 years ago, we expanded our territory for our programs and services into Reston and Herndon, and we became the Shepherd Center of Oakton, Vienna, Reston, and Herndon, which was a mouthful. And then we recently had a very wonderful merger with the Shepherd Center of Great Falls, and it was a little too much to add Great Falls to that list, so we became more generically the Shepherd Center of Northern Virginia. And as many of you know, we have a mission of serving seniors through a seniors serving seniors model. We have close to 300 volunteers serving over 300 clients that make use of a variety of our services and programs. But we also, in addition to providing volunteer opportunities for seniors, we also provide many social and educational opportunities for both our volunteers and our clients and participants from the community that are neither a client nor a volunteer with us. And this is one of them. We have other educational opportunities called Adventures in Learning, which is a 3-semester annual educational program on Thursdays, where we have 3 to 4 hours of presentations, normally done live, but during COVID, we also do that on Zoom. We have a Great Decisions discussion group that meets approximately monthly for most of the year. And then we, again, pre-COVID, do a whole variety of social programming in the Oakton, Vienna region, primarily at this point, sometimes at the Vienna Community Center and at some of our other partner congregations. And hopefully sometime in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll be back to doing more in-person activities. And finally, our services, really, which is the core of our mission, is for vulnerable seniors in the Northern Virginia area, in our service area. We provide free transportation to medical, dental, and other programs. And we also provide companionship programs, friendly visitor and friendly caller programs to many of our clients. Of course, the friendly visitor program has been suspended during COVID. We hope to get back to that soon as well.
Oh, here you go.
All righty. So with that introduction, let me introduce Suba a little bit more thoroughly, and then I'm going to load up his presentation and get started. I'm going to mute everybody here. And then I will allow Suba to unmute himself. I want to go there. All right. All right, Suba, you should be able to unmute yourself, I hope. All right, good. And so I think we're ready to go. I'm going to load up his presentation in a second. It's wonderful to have Suba with us for the first time. He is a volunteer with AARP of Virginia. He is a community ambassador, which he's been for the last 6 years. And he specializes in a variety of presentations for AARP. And I actually realized this morning that these are all related. It's fraud, brain health, and decluttering. And it occurred to me that if you have good brain health, you're less likely to be defrauded. And if you're good at decluttering your life, you probably have better brain health. So I think it's sort of a triangular relationship between these three that I just realized this morning. Suba is a retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force, and he also served as a civilian employee with the Department of Defense for many years. He volunteers throughout the county at the public schools and also as an English conversation specialist for a variety of programs throughout the county. And close to my heart, he has hiked in 54 of the 61 national parks. And is it still 54, or have you picked off another one in the meantime, Suba?
No, it's still 54. Of course, with COVID, we got stopped.
Slowed down a little bit. Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's an impressive list that I would someday like to emulate. All righty, so I'm going to load up Suba's presentation. And again, we'll have time for questions at the end. and we will, you can also put things in the chat, and I will keep track of them as well. All right, so let me get his presentation loaded up.
Okay.
All righty.
Well, thank you, Scott, and good morning, all. I was telling Scott, it's a beautiful morning outside, and so hopefully you'll get to enjoy some of it. And one of the questions I get asked right away is, can we get a copy of the presentation? And yes, AARP is now allowing us to, so Scott, you can forward this presentation to everybody, the version that we are showing. The only request we have is that nobody can present it on their own because you have to be an AARP presenter. So the title is exactly what I'm going to be talking about this morning, downsizing and decluttering. I'm going to be concentrating more on decluttering because downsizing to me is like, okay, for example, my wife and I live in a single family home. We're ready to downsize, but it's been awfully difficult here in Northern Virginia, as you folks might well imagine. It's very expensive, or if it's not that expensive, you move into a smaller area, but the neighborhood's not that good. You lose all the things that you might have in the single family home. So I will be addressing some of that. The other thing I'll be addressing is some of this stuff, I'm originally from India. So culturally, it is, when I started doing this presentation, I told AARP, I said, some of this stuff doesn't match with what I went through with my parents. And they said, oh my gosh, definitely put that in your presentation. Because there's things here I will share with you that I had never heard about as far as decluttering. But anyway, that'll be an interesting journey as I take you through it. So go ahead, Scott, go to the next one. So this is, of course, King Tut. Put this in your mind, and I'll address it at the end of the presentation, but keep that in your mind as we go along in this presentation. Okay, go ahead to the next one. So today's goals. Most of we should say all of our presentations are common sense approaches, but of course a lot of people don't follow common sense, or they put it off. But I've been hearing that during COVID, people have been using the time to declutter. And also the downsizing could be also related to the stuff you have. So that could put the word downsizing in there. So this is the main word you want to say. Gain a general understanding of why stuff. Everything you have in your home is under this one common word, stuff. Yes. How much stuff do you have? How much stuff do you need? How much stuff do you need to keep? And how much stuff do you need to get rid of? And then, you're right, we're going to go through some practical, easy to follow downsizing, decluttering tips. Okay, Scott, next. So I'm part of the boomer crowd. 10,000 people turn 65 every day. We might have different age groups here in the audience today. And I still say audience because I'm still getting used to the Zoom part of it, because when they first said Zoom presentations, I just said I simply cannot do a presentation sitting in a chair for an hour or 45 minutes or whatever. But then I had to get used to it. But I can't wait to do live presentations again. But anyway, you can see these numbers, and we are the fastest growing, the boomer, and we have the most dollars to spend. And the other thing is 15% of America is over 65 right now, and in 40 years, 33% of America will be over 65. So I'm just giving you these stats. This will be the largest buying group in America. And so go ahead, go to the next one, Scott. So we talk about generations, right? We had the greatest generation. We have the silent generation, and the years are 1928 to 1945. Baby boomers, which is me and my wife, 46 to 64. Gen X, 65 to 80. Millennials, 81 to 1996. And I had to write this in, the Gen Z. Now we have the Gen Z. Each one of them is different. Each one of them have their own likes and dislikes. Of course, we always make fun of the millennials. I know, and then, oh, don't be such a boomer. You've heard that expression too. So all these generations have had different ways to say, hey, this is important to me. So, for example, the greatest generation lied about their age to get into the military. Now, according to this, the baby boomers, me, lied most about how old we were so we could drink beer. When I look back, at first I said, wait a minute, is that right? And I said, yeah. Well, of course, I was in a state when 18 was a legal drinking age, and my wife is from Pennsylvania where 21 was a legal drinking age. So, but basically each generation has distinct personalities, and their wants and needs are a little bit different. Okay, going to go to the next one. So I'm going to let you sort of soak this in. And the thing I want you to, again, say is attach pride to their stuff because of hard work and memories. So as far as memories go, my wife, when we started to declutter, she said, most of this stuff in this house is yours. And I said, Joanne, that is not possible. She said, I'll bet you dinner. You know, usually our bets I end up losing. So yeah, I made a bet. I knew I was going to lose, but I said, what the heck? So she took me room by room. And yeah, I lost really bad. It was all my stuff I had collected through the Air Force and my time in DOD. And oh boy, nobody wants it. I can tell you the story of each one of why I was given that, the story behind it. And it's been awfully hard to get rid of it. I've started to work little bits and pieces of it rather than trying to do the whole thing. But yeah, so, and no, you know, it has my name on it. And so that was a lot of memories. So it is emotional. So when you get rid of stuff, it is emotional. So what I'm trying to say is here, don't try to do it all in one day or whatever. So largest amount of people ever acquiring health care, of course, boomers and their parent. And this is the third bullet here. An impending shortage of affordable housing for downsizing. And boy, my wife and I have looked, and it's either an old house that we would have to really put some money in, and I don't want to do that. We've looked at 55 and over communities, and they're way down 95. I don't want to live in 95 because I still do a lot of volunteering in this area. My wife still works part-time. So yeah, it's been really hard. And some of the 55 and over that's near our house, it's $600,000 for something much smaller and not an area we want to live in because it doesn't have really places to go walk. You know, I come out of my house and I can go walking, there's a lake nearby. So the number one thing that impedes people from leaving their home and or getting health care into their homes is their stuff, because they don't have a way to move it when they downsize. And so we're already thinking ahead. If we find that house where it's smaller, we cannot take all the stuff we have now because it simply won't fit. Okay, so next one, Scott. So this, I'm going to read it verbatim. So this is 2017, folks. The majority of caretakers said handling the stuff was the most stressful part of settling the estate. So my wife and I have a living will. We got it done. Now we're in the midst of updating it. And it was tough when we first got it done. And I hope most of you've got a living will taken care of. And hope you're updating it as well, because things change as we go through life. But a lot of you've heard of even rich people. Prince, he died. He had no living will, and now his brothers, sisters are sort of fighting over what belongs to who. So you don't want that to happen, but it still happens. Okay, go ahead, Scott. So this one is very clear. Now, I put a little caveat to this. No one wants your stuff unless they specifically ask for it. And that could be your kids, your grandkids, your friends, whoever. I'm not talking about selling it right now, but if somebody comes to your house and you're like, oh my gosh, that painting is beautiful. Really? I've been trying to get rid of it because we're downsizing or decluttering. I'd love it. I love it. I really want it. So I always put a little caveat to this. No one wants your stuff unless somebody specifically asks for it. But don't force anything on somebody because it's been in the family and you're like, oh yeah, you're going to love it. And they don't even have space for it, but they're guilt tripped into taking it. So don't guilt trip into taking any of your stuff. That's what I really want to emphasize here. Okay, so go ahead, go to the next one, Scott. So now we'll get into the meat of what this presentation is about, the tips. Okay, so go ahead to the next one. This is good. Include everyone in the house. So when my in-laws moved to an assisted living facility, they got their house prepared to sell. They invited their 6 kids and their spouses and their grandkids over a 3-day weekend. We called it the 3-day weekend retreat in Pennsylvania at my in-laws' house. And they went through everything. They didn't have much, but they basically asked, what do you guys want? And there was no fighting, which I was amazed at. You know, my wife Joanne said, I'd like this. And they almost had a plan, I think, even when they were discussing this with their parents, perhaps saying, hey, this will go to the older brother or the older sister, you know, and so on and so forth among the 6 kids. Whatever they didn't want, you know, they did sell it. They sold it through a third party. It was okay. It could have been handled better. They got a little bit of the proceeds. They didn't have a yard sale. They didn't want to do a yard sale, but they involved everybody. Now, let me tell you culturally with my parents. My parents really didn't have much of anything. They sold their house. They moved into a smaller place. All the bad stuff really just went to the garbage because it was really old. And there was really nothing to distribute among the kids. So that's the difference between my in-laws and my parents. So there was really not much to have between me, my brother, and my sister. But that's how they did it with the in-laws. But they really included this. They included everybody because it was a fun way to say, hey, what do we want to do with all our stuff? And some of the stuff really goes to family members who really want it. And sometimes you can even have friends over to say, hey, do you want some of this stuff? But this is just including everyone includes everybody else beside family. Okay, go ahead, Scott. Go to the next one, please. Now, remember, people are living longer in their house. So, of course, you accumulate more stuff. This is something my wife and I did even before I'd looked into the presentation. So you can see here a very cluttered room. You don't want to attack a room and just say, this is all the stuff that goes. You want to have a plan, right? You want to have a plan. So what you want to do in a 10-minute sweep is just go to each room with a notebook. Now, I'll tell you, folks, my wife is a better organizer than I am. Yep, she is. She takes better notes than I do. So we just went room by room. She had a notebook, and she has better handwriting than me, so I can actually understand, you know, what's being written. So, you know, we're taking down what we want to keep, what we want to give away, and we donate a lot. We believe big in donation. So, or if somebody wanted it. And also, don't try to do it all at one time. So instead of looking at the room as a whole, look at small 2-foot by 2-foot areas, if that helps you. So I have everyone in the family pick a 2-foot by 2-foot area and everyone cleans for 10 minutes. So that's the 10-minute sweep. You can do it our way, like I said, with notes and stuff, then invite people over, or you can do it with the family members. It depends on how many family members. Of course, now with COVID, that was all stopped. But now with people getting vaccinated and all that, you can start doing this again. I always have to put the COVID in there in my presentation now. So not more than 10 minutes, no less than 10 minutes. Try it at night, 10 minutes before your favorite TV show comes on. Stay consistent 5 nights a week. So again, these are some tips only if you want to do it that way, or you can attack it your own way, whatever works for you. Okay, so go ahead, Scott, go to the next one, please. All right, so this is one, folks, I had never heard of. I didn't really know what that meant. So the presenter who trained me said, well, these are bags when people go on trips, on vacation. When they come back, they never unpack the bags. I go, no way. And then, yeah, yes way, because I thought of my brother and his wife. They have unpacked bags. Uh, their house is a mess. But it's all because, you know, they don't put away things where it's supposed to be. So if you have suitcases at home, if you're one of them where you think you have stuff in your bags, unpack all of them. Maybe you'll find a treasure. Maybe you'll find money. Maybe you found something like, oh my God, that's where it's been. That's where my necklace has been, or whatever. So also you might find luggage that's really in bad shape, so you can just throw it away, or if it's decent shape, again, you can donate. So what I would recommend here is, if you are one of those people, when you come back from a vacation, the first thing my wife and I do is unpack. We cannot go to sleep unless we've unpacked. It's just sort of like it's done. You know, things go in the laundry or whatever. Okay, so next one. Every item has a home. I can find everything I need. I don't need to ask my wife where I put it. And this is, of course, a very organized closet. There are actually professionals who can come and design a closet space for you. There's actually professionals that can now help you organize. I found that out. I didn't know that. My wife would be actually wonderful on that. But she said, no, I don't know if I'd have enough patience. I'd probably tell them to throw everything away. So I said, okay, maybe that job wouldn't be for you after you retire. But yeah, every item has a home, the shoes, the socks, underwear, everything. So I know where all my stuff is. So if I need to go get dressed, or if I need to put on something, I know where it is. And I'm not saying, hey, Joanne, where did I put that pair of pants? So yeah, need to be better organized. And the other thing is, think of equal in, equal out. Don't keep on collecting shoes. If you bring in a pair of shoes, and again, I think of my sister-in-law here, my wife's brother's wife. She loves shoes. She's got 50 pairs of shoes. She thinks if it's on sale, it's a good deal. But it's not the equal in, equal out. So if you buy a new pair of shoes, perhaps have the old shoes. If it's really bad, throw it away or donate it. And I keep on hitting donation, 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 because I love trying to help other people who are in need. Okay, so every item has a home. Of course, I don't have to say groceries go in the kitchen. But yeah, and the one thing you do not want to have stuff in is your bathroom. More injuries happen in the bathrooms than any other place, because actually people have stuff other than bathroom products in their bathrooms. So declutter your bathrooms if you have other stuff in there. That's your first place to start, because that's a safety issue. Okay, so next. So I make this a 5-pile sort instead of 4-pile sort. Keep, sell, donate, trash, recycle. Of course, recycle those items that you can. I live in Fairfax. So of course they tell us what we can recycle and what we cannot recycle. And now I can take my bottles and such. We were taking it to Fort Belvoir, but they closed the recycling there. So now we take it to another place so we can drop off our glass. But the other recyclable items goes to the curb Monday mornings. So yeah, please put in recycle in there. So keep, sell, donate, trash. About a weekend ago, we saw a lot of yard sales going on. I said, wow. So the neighborhood must have done a yard sale. I don't personally believe in yard sales. I don't want to have my stuff going to somebody else, but hey, if that's what you want, go for it. You also can do eBay, stuff like that, but be very careful. If you do meet somebody to sell something, or you're inviting somebody to your home to sell something, be very careful. Always have somebody around. So what you want to do in this is separate the piles. It's important to put the sell and donate pile next to you and the keep pile far away. Okay, it's amazing to see how much you don't keep if you have to walk all the way over to keep it. And again, I believe this is a garage. It's amazing in my neighborhood when we take a walk, how much stuff is just, oh my gosh, I see a garage open, and that's why cars are not parked in the garage. because there's so much stuff in there. It's their like holding area. Of course, families have moved in to people's homes due to COVID. So yeah, I give them a pass for that. But the garage has become the holding area. And I believe the picture you're seeing here is from a garage. So there's your 5-pile sort. So let's go to the next one. So legacy, before I go to the legacy item, this is another helpful hint. If your kids have given you their stuff and they say, Mom, Dad, I'm going to get it in a couple of weeks, but it's now been a year, you're being too nice. Don't hold on to other people's stuff. You have enough stuff to get rid of yourself. And if you're trying to hold on to friends, family, no, they need to find one of those places that you pay a monthly fee for, and you need to be a little tough, because this has come up a couple of times in my presentation is, hey, I have my kids' stuff, and they said they'll get it in a couple of months, and now it's been almost a year. Well, it's upon you to say, you guys are adults, and we cannot handle your stuff anymore. So this is another item I'd never heard of. Neither one of my parents had any legacy items to deal with, thank goodness. But of course, as you can see, this is the fine silverware. The only thing that we did get from my in-laws, which I find very helpful, was smaller plates. We eat smaller portions now because back in their generation, they had smaller plates. So we eat less now, which is better for us for health. But the legacy is one of those, yeah, it's expensive type of stuff. A piano could be considered a legacy item. So perhaps you need to really look into it to see who wants it. Again, don't guilt trip anybody to taking your legacy items. Make sure you really want to get rid of it now, and if you don't, then stop saying you will. And then I'm just reading this here. Don't be surprised by the results. A lot of times we see people say they're going to give the piano away when they die, and when we push giving away the legacy item now, they decide not to give it. So again, these legacy items can also be donated, folks. Okay, here we go to the next one, Scott. All right, this is a football terminology, of course. I love sports analogies. Avoid punting, meaning don't keep on procrastinating. We often have furniture that we kept from our parents because we knew they would be upset if we didn't take it. It was a guilt shaming, but we never really wanted it, and we kept it out of obligation. Guess what? The next generation don't feel that obligation. They simply don't want it. So if the person says they don't want it, then don't say, yes, you do want it. And so this is the part that we were talking about. Sell or donate the item to someone that does want it. So this is where those I think this is sort of part of the legacy items and also other stuff that you have, and don't force anybody to take it within your family. Okay, go ahead to the next one, Scott. This is the part I love. Donate, donate, donate. I love personally giving to the veterans. There's so many groups that will come to your house to pick it up. We just had the, it's called Green Drop, but they do a lot of pickups for a lot of different organizations. And within Green Drop, we have, we donate to Purple Heart because we know those items will specifically go to veterans. And one thing about donation, make sure you only donate good items. The reason I say this is I volunteer at the Lorton Food Bank, and they have a thrift store there. And items that are torn, old, moldy show up. That's not going to be of use to anybody. That really goes in the trash. Before you donate, please wash the items, maybe even dry clean it. Remember, somebody's going to be wearing this, and I'm hoping that will help a veteran perhaps find a better, maybe a job or something. I just envision that good things are going to happen. A pair of shoes, make sure they're good, they're not torn. So donation just doesn't mean piling up all your stuff that's really bad and donating it. And the other thing about organizations, they will actually even pick up furniture, but I know with different organizations, they want you to put that particular, they don't want to come inside your house unless you pay for it. But if you put it on the on your porch, they will take it away in their truck. So we do every 6 months the Purple Heart pickup, and they're very good. They'll say they'll be there, and then they leave a little thing on your door so you can itemize it for taxes. Some of the examples include Dress for Success for clothes, Souls for souls. This is just coming from AARP. Tech for troops for electronics. Remember with electronics, make sure everything's been down, taken away, the chip and all that, so you don't have anything there that that can have personal information on you. Catholic charities, there's a lot. You can Google so many different places to find out where you can take your stuff. Or otherwise, also in your neighborhood, I don't know, they have a lot of boxes in my neighborhood where you can drop off clothes and shoes. It's kind of like a bin. It's at my near my CVS pharmacy and another by the Exxon gas station. So that's good. They've actually done that, and then actually goes to people. Or you can arrange a pickup at your house. Okay, so I love donation. Okay, next one, Scott. Number 9. Okay, so what do we mean by be realistic? Okay, so folks, I'll be truthful to you. When I joined the military, I had a 32-inch waist. Do I have a 32-inch waist now? No. And I had to be realistic. No, I'm comfortable with who I am now. And so at one time I did have pants that I was trying to fit into. They were really tight. They were uncomfortable, but I said, I'm going to keep on. And no, I got rid of all of them. They were in good shape, but I said, so now I only have stuff in my closet that fits me. Any pair of pants or shirt will fit me comfortably. So if you have a goal to say, I'm going to fit into those 32-inch or ladies size 8 or 7, whatever it is, keep one. Don't keep 4 or 5 pairs. Donate them so it'll help some other people. But again, be realistic. I had to really talk about what do you mean food? Well, yeah, go through all the stuff, anything that is expired. Please do not donate those to food banks, anything that's expired. When we volunteer at the food bank, yeah, we'll have items show up that will actually have, they've already expired. So where do they end up? In the trash. So be realistic on this. And when I got rid of all the pants that don't fit me, I just said, I felt lighter and my closet felt lighter. Now that I'm also retired, I also feel like I don't wear all those different clothes. So I've actually been giving away more clothing, so I can only keep, 3 or 4 pair of pants, so many shirts, and that's, really what I need in order to volunteer and have my life. And if I buy something, it's at the in and out, equal in, equal out. So if I do buy a pair of pants, one is going to go away. Same thing with all my clothing, socks and things like that, because I need a pair of socks, not just because I want another pair of socks. So that's the way to sort of keep it at a good level. Again, food is the same way. Oh my gosh, this is the part people have kept food. My mom was one of them who hated to throw food away. And I would go, and my mom's passed away now, but I would go through a refrigerator and I go, no, Mom, you cannot eat this, you'll get sick. She hated wasting. So I would just clear the refrigerator for her. I go, no, Mom, this is going in the trash. Look the other way. We are not keeping this. So I became the parent, right? I became the parent. And I'm admonishing my mom for keeping stuff that was way too old. I said, no, you can do a science experiment with this, Mom. Nope, this is going in the trash. All right, so go ahead, go to the next one. We're almost down. This is almost the toughest one. Pare down paper and photos. So mail, I heard some people actually accumulate mail. So of course we check our mailbox, we go through it, most of it is junk, we recycle it. Make sure you tear up your mail. Don't put it in the recycling with your full name or address. Just tear it up, put it in the recycling if you recycle. But go through your mail each and every day. Don't let it stack up like you see in the picture here. Shredding. We just went through a shredding at Burke this past weekend. We took really just a box and they shredded it. Anything with a social security number, you know, things like that. I got to give you an interesting story. So my computer, I'm talking to you from, I consider it my office or computer room, whatever you want to call it. Yes, I had a lot of old documents. I had kept everything from my Air Force days, everything from my DOD days, and I didn't need it, but I kept it just in case. So, yep, we went through it 4 hours, my wife and I, and put it all in a shred box and shredded it all. I will never need it. So go through all your paperwork. If you think you have something important, you know, maybe keep it for a year. All the other stuff you don't need. Ask your accountant. Ask somebody if you really don't need to keep it. You don't need to keep it. Photos. Remember, we came from a generation where we took a lot of photographs. We still have photo albums. So now there's a way to digitalize all those things and put it on the computer. Some others have suggested they take an old photograph of their kids and they put it in the Christmas card and say, hey, remember this? Merry Christmas, and send it to their kids. And they love it. They actually love that, going, wow, this is how it looked like. So there's different ways to get rid of it. Also go through your photo albums. So my wife and I did this. If we didn't recognize somebody in the photo, I'd say, Joanne, do you know who this is? No, Suba. Do you know who this is? Nope. It goes in the trash. No reason to keep it if you don't know who the heck the people are. So we got rid of all those photos. And the other thing is, if you hear the thing in the background, it's the mowers coming through my yard. So sorry about that. But anyway, photos can be digitalized now. We're going to try to do that, but we still have photo albums, but we have pared them down. Again, paperwork can really stack up really quickly. So really put an eye on that. And the other thing is, when you declutter, do not try to do this alone. That's one thing I really want to stress is have somebody. If you're, like I said, I'm not the greatest organizer, my wife is, so I use her strengths as far as that goes. But make sure you do this with people. Don't try to do it all in one day because it doesn't work, okay? And again, it is emotional, but you want to try to be non-emotional about it. Have it with people, maybe even have some, friends. If you're going to have some family, have a glass of wine, relax, and then do it. Don't look at it. It is a task. You do have to pay attention, but try to have some fun too. You look at some pictures, you talk about it, have some memory, have some laughs. But I like the way my in-laws did it. We called it the retreat at my in-laws' house over the weekend, and we got it done. So shredder, we got a small shredder in our house that we can actually shred documents. But other than that, we keep all our big documents in a box, and then we take it to the shredding trucks that happens in different parts of the county. Okay. Best tip is to keep 100 pictures you like and write out the name. This is just a suggestion. And stories attached to the people. At the end of the day, this isn't about the pictures. It's about the people and the emotions. The one thing the family does care about is the stories. So I say keep 100 plus pictures in a few gallon size slide lock bags, but of course you can digitalize everything. The main thing you should remember from the last 30 or the covering the presentation I've done is about stories and emotions, people, not stuff. So celebrate the stories, get rid of the stuff. So go ahead, go to the next slide. So you remember King Tut. So guess what, folks? The picture on the left is what they found in King Tut's tomb. That's exactly what they found in King Tut's tomb. And the picture on the right is, of course, somebody's garage. It's a realistic picture. Of course, I guess in some places they said, hey, I'm going to be buried with this or buried with that. But yeah, you really... I think of my parents. They had really nothing when they passed away. I think my dad had like $40 in his checking account, and I asked my brother and sister, okay, we'll split this, and we'll That's all it was. They had no will, nothing. That's because they had nothing. And even in India, and my relative's house, there's not too much furniture in homes. It's kind of like an open space. There's just not much stuff around. That's just the way our culture works. It's just when we came here, we start accumulating stuff. So I think of this presentation every day because as I'm sitting in a room, I'm going, oh my gosh, I do need to work on that. So I myself, who's an AARP presenter for Decluttering, get a little bit lazy on this. And so sometimes I just say, yeah, I need to work on this. But then I've decided for right now, I want to keep some of that stuff because it's personal to me. But when we finally move to whatever that downsized place is, it will be going in the trash. Because it doesn't belong to anybody, it has my name on it. My shadow box will go to somebody who I've already named. So that means a lot because the shadow box that was given to me when I retired from the military. So that will definitely go to somebody. So this is sort of in a summarization what I have. So what we can do is now we can open it up for questions, Scott, and see what we have.
Okay, great, Suba. Thank you so much. Let me get everybody unmuted here. You should now be able to unmute yourself. Looks like people are being able to do that and ask questions. There were a couple in the chat. Let me get to those real quick.
Okay.
And a couple people had asked questions in the chat. Okie dokie. So Pam asked, and you mentioned a little of this as you went through, maybe you can go back over it again. Pam asked, do you have a list of local organizations to donate our stuff to?
Well, for example, animal shelters will accept old blankets, bath towels, hand towels, sheets, pillows, because they need them in animal shelters. So this is just a list that somebody had sent me. Of course, Googling something is the best. Local food banks, for example, the Lorton Food Bank, where I volunteer, also has a thrift store. They are open now, and so you can take your stuff in there, just donating it, and then they take care of it. Of course, Purple Heart, Salvation Army. Also, if you're retired military, you can take it to the, I've heard some are open, some are not. You can take it to the thrift store on base. They'll take some of the good military items that you have, as far as uniforms and things like that. Did I answer that question?
Good, all right. Thank you. Let me go, there was another question, interesting question from Rabab. What do you do with old international items from parents' travels? That's a fascinating one. I certainly have a lot of this floating around my family as well.
Yes, and one man's treasure is another man's, or one man's garbage is another man's treasure, or something like that. So for example, that's a good question. I collected spoons for my mother-in-law. It just became a habit. I visited a lot of different countries. And so she's going to give all the spoons to us when she passes away, which is okay. The international stuff is yours. Again, I would ask family members if they want it, or even your friends. Say, hey, I don't want this anymore. I don't need this anymore. Do you want it? And if not, if it's in good shape, it can be donated, thrift store, or, sorry, goes in the trash. Or recycle, if it can be recycled. Again, anything that we can help the environment with, let's recycle it.
Great. And Anne asked, how do you feel after personally clearing out a lot of your stuff? Do you have any regrets? Do you miss any of it? Or was it just a wonderful feeling of lightness?
So far, what I've gotten rid of, I felt a size of, I didn't go, oh my God, why did I get rid of that? Joanne, let's go to that place and try to get that back. So yeah, I had no regrets. That's a great question though. So that's why you want to do that 4-pile or 5-pile sort. make sure that once you get rid of it, it's gone. It's out of sight, out of mind. You're not sitting there lamenting about, oh my God, have a nervous breakdown about why did I get rid of it? And that's why I said, don't try to do this alone. Do this with people that you know, and always have a good organizer person in that midst of people. So yeah, don't lament on something you've already got rid of.
Sorry, my phone's ringing. All right, so another good question in the chat from Pam. What do you do with wooden plaques like the ones I have all over my wall back here? Well, I can tell you what I'm going to do with them because nobody wants them. When I no longer have a wall to put them on, they're going in the trash.
Yes, you're absolutely right, because it has your name on it, and I have those two, what we call in our house the Suba room, that my wife had to create because of all the different stuff I had accumulated. Yes, I have quite a bit of those, Scott, that I see in the back in your wall. And yeah, again, some of that metal could maybe go to recycling, but everything else, yeah, goes in the trash. Unless somebody goes, oh my gosh, I really want that. I want to put that in my house. And they're like, yes, I want to take that with me. I want to see, I love that picture. I have a beautiful picture the Colonel gave me. It's got this jet flying over, but it has my name. But one of my relatives I really wanted because I said, oh, so you'll take my name out? He goes, oh, yeah, probably. I said, okay, you can keep the picture then. So, yeah.
Great. Nobody really wants the minor award you won 30 years ago.
Yeah, but it means so much. Yeah, but it means so much to you, Scott. Yeah, because you remember the story, the memory.
Right.
Gosh, I can't remember maybe what I did 2 days ago, but I remember everything about that particular thing that was given to me and the story behind it.
Right, but your kids don't care.
No.
Yeah, like I said, if I win a Nobel Prize, maybe I'll give that to somebody, but that's unlikely to happen.
Definitely the money part of it.
Right. Let's see. I don't see any more questions in the chat. People are free to unmute themselves. If you have any trouble unmuting yourselves, let me know. And I will tell a quick story. You mentioned, that when you go around and declutter, you might find surprises. And my wife and I were decluttering, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 months ago. And we went through one of her drawers in her chest of drawers and, getting rid of old clothes and things like that. And we found taped to the bottom of one of the drawers an envelope with $300 in cash in it that we had put there, I think at the Y2K, when we thought the entire world was going to end in 2000, January 1st, 2000. And so we had a nice crisp pile of $20 bills that we were able to then
wow. That's good. I see, find a treasure. And in that same context, people have asked, we don't cover jewelry here. So one thing, again, go back to my in-laws, they just asked their daughter, well, my mother-in-law asked the daughters what jewelry they wanted. And they took whatever jewelry they wanted. Again, no guilt shaming or anything. And the others were sold. So jewelry is something, we don't have a lot of it, but some people do have a lot of jewelry. So do include family, and then you can certainly have places where you can sell it. And also another place to donate is, of course, religious institution. Churches do a lot of things for the community that you can certainly use that. Or I don't know about donating jewelry. I don't know if thrift stores, I've never looked into that. But that's something you do need to pay special attention to. Yeah, but finding the $300, oh my gosh, that's great. Only thing we found is a dime and a nickel.
So I was going to ask another question you may or may not know. Maybe other folks on the call know, but I have read that it's becoming a little more difficult to donate certain items, and I'm thinking particularly of clothing, because I guess a lot of it used to be shipped internationally to other countries, and at least some countries are beginning to clamp down on importing used clothes from places like the United States, because it's snuffing out their own sort of developing in-country textile industries. And so it's becoming more difficult to get rid of clothing. And similarly, electronics, computer electronics, and other things that I guess a lot of that used to be recycled in China is now not being accepted in China anymore. So I didn't know if it was a problem, if you'd run into it, or if others have run into difficulty actually donating things that you would like to donate.
You're right. Electronic items, yeah, is being clamped down on. What is being donated overseas, I saw it on a 60 Minutes thing, was more of sports types items, jerseys, things like that go overseas that the kids love to wear, Kobe Bryant or something like that. But I know the kind of clothing my wife and I donate, pants, shirts, regular types of items that you would wear, those specifically goes to veterans. Because I did call them and find out, hey, yeah, I know you tell us that it's going to go to the veterans, but is it going overseas? They said, no, sir. All your items that you've given us will go to veterans. I said, okay, thank you. And, I have to believe that what they said is true. But I do find that sporting items like jerseys and things like that, football jerseys or basketball jerseys, do end up going overseas. But yeah, you're right, Scott. The electronic items are being clamped down on. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Either you can put them in chat or you can unmute yourself and let us know.
Yeah, and if anybody has had any success in decluttering, if they have a good story to share, I always like to pick up how they did it. It doesn't have to be the process that I just went through for the tip. If you have an own tip that worked, I certainly kind of cheat and put that in my presentation and then try to add it to the next one. So if somebody has a great thing they did in their home, we have a little bit of time that they want to share a story, please do.
Diane, I see you have your hand up. And hang on, Cindy. Let me go. Diane had her hand up first, and then I'll come to you.
I'm just curious because my husband has a lot of suits and dress shirts that he isn't wearing. And can you tell me what organization you contribute clothes to for the military?
Oh, it's called the Purple Heart. And Purple Heart, and it's done by an organization called Green Drop. We get their flyers in our mail. We're on their mailing list. So every month or every 2 months or something, we'll find their flyer. And then whenever it's time for us to donate, it's just because I'm a veteran, I wanted to go to veterans. But there's a lot of different organizations among Green Drop that they pick up for, Red Cross and so on and so forth. But yeah, suits, shirts that are in good shape, yep, they actually will go to the veterans.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, great. Cindy, I saw you had your hand up there.
Yeah, one of the things that I found really helpful is Buy Nothing in whatever town you're in. For me, it's Buy Nothing Reston, and it's a Facebook group, and so there's probably a Buy Nothing Oakton and a Buy Nothing Vienna, whatever, but it allows you to decide you don't want, this thing, and then you just take a picture of it and you join it, and then you can just post it, and then you just set it on your front porch on the date the person's going to come pick it up, and it's contactless. It's very quick, and it's useful for people who struggle with second guessing. You decide you got your giveaway pile, and then you start going into it before it gets out of your house. So it's a very quick thing, and most of the people that are in it are younger than a lot of us. And so they could use some of those things. They're looking for extra candles. I don't think I'd burn enough candles the rest of my life if I used the ones that I've now collected. So they're glad to get those kind of things. And it's really nice because you get to connect also with a different generation that might be in your, it's meant to form community. It's not just to get rid of the items, and you can also request things too. So that's one suggestion. And the other one is that I think a lot of us, well, you talk about the plaques on your wall. I think of the trophies that all the kids get when they play a sport, even if they just a participation sport, and we've really created a lot of extra stuff that someone's going to have to get rid of at some point. So I think that it would be really useful if we kind of, when I talk about the 4 R's for, reduce, reuse, recycle, that kind of stuff, the important one is refuse. and to
Yes.
just not get it in the first place. You travel and don't pick up that tchotchke, because then you're going to have it, and then you're going to have to get rid of it too. So
Yes, that's a great suggestion. That's one thing my wife, I'm more of the, like, we'll go somewhere and like, oh my God, look at that. And my wife goes, remember, we're downsizing, we're decluttering. I go, oh yeah, 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 yeah. So I got to be mindful of that. I don't buy knickknacks anymore. And I got to tell you the story. One of my best friends from college, his wife is an antique shopper. And she keeps on buying. You know, they go for a drive and she'll buy something, and he goes, oh my gosh, we're trying to declutter, downsize, and we're still accumulating stuff. And one of my presentations, a gentleman said, or maybe it was the other way. Anyway, he said, my spouse is a hoarder. And oh boy, that's another level. You've heard about hoarders, right? Two men died in New York. They were found under their stuff. So that's an extreme level. So if you know of anybody like that, they do need help. It's psychological help. But yeah, when you're can't even move inside the house because it's so much stuff. Yeah, that's another level. But yeah, antique shopping. I'm so glad neither my wife and I do antique shopping, because yeah, you can keep on collecting stuff or taking stuff. But yeah, you have to be mindful when you travel. No, we don't need that in our house. We have a travel wall. It's full. We're not putting any more else, no more pictures on that travel wall. So yeah, and that's a very good statement. Yeah, but it's hard not to go, oh my God, this is my memory of so-and-so. But you got pictures, so that's your memory.
Great. I see Pam Pontillo also raised her hand to ask a question. Go ahead, Pam.
Yeah, a few years I retired. I assume this organization still exists. I gave a lot of my business clothing to an organization called Women Giving Back. It was in Sterling, Virginia.
Women Giving Back.
They had a big warehouse and it was all sorted, and they had jewelry and purses, shoes, clothing. It was huge. And but like I said, I don't know if it still exists or not.
It does still exist, yes.
Oh.
And they have certain days that they accept donations, and you can also volunteer there to help sort through and hang up clothes.
Wow, Women Giving Back. That's wonderful, Sterling. And so do you have to take your stuff there, or do they pick it up at your house?
You have to take your things there on certain days, certain hours.
Got it. That's good.
But it's really, they collect a lot of items and they distribute them. They have women who need items go through a process of approval, and then they come and they can collect 50 items. They hang it nicely and by size and by category of item, mostly women's clothes, but they do have some children's and some other. And it's very nice because the women can go shopping there. It's a very nice.
That's really good. I'm glad you brought that up. And it is the only location in Sterling, Virginia, if I may ask, or do they have other locations?
I think that's the only one.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, always pick up something in every presentation. So thank you for that.
So one little tip from my daughter and her husband, and it's similar to the service that someone mentioned earlier, sort of regional, but Craigslist actually, you don't have to sell things on Craigslist, but they have something called a curb alert, which some of you may be familiar with. You can basically take a picture of stuff, put it on your curb outside your house, and post it to Craigslist. And my kids have done this now a number of times, and it's amazing how fast things will disappear and what will disappear. They replaced all the toilets in their house, and somebody came by and took like 4 20-year-old toilets. Just within an hour they were gone. Old ceiling fans, old furniture, old lawnmowers, almost anything. And you're thinking, you might throw it, maybe these people eventually throw it away, but I imagine they have some use for it. And it's literally amazing how fast it disappears.
Do they sell it, Scott, or is it just on Craigslist and it's out on the curb and people come pick it up?
Here's a picture, here's the address, pick it up, and before you turn around and walk back into the house, it's gone.
Okay. Just don't do it the same day as the garbage pickup.
Great. Well, listen, we're almost out of time. Were there any other questions? This has been a great presentation, Suba. Thank you so much. Very useful information, and yeah.
No, I enjoy it. I appreciate you guys having me. And like I said, down the road, if you wanted to do 6 principles of brain health, willing and able, and just need a, like a email to say date, time, and I'll be willing to do it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, and we really appreciate it. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. And you're free to stay on, Suba, if you have time and want to. Anne Marie's going to do her presentation in just a moment.
Yeah. Well, I actually have to get ready for another presentation.
Oh, you are a busy guy. Yeah. Yeah,
so thank you, folks. Enjoy the weather today. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I had some great tips. I wrote that down. And Scott, thanks for helping me with the presentation. And again, if somebody wants a copy of that presentation, you can forward it to them.
Great. And we've also recorded this whole session, and we're posting it online as well, so people can go back and look at it if necessary. And thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You too, Suba. Thank you. All right, great. So those of you who've been with us before know that we are always pleased to have Anne Marie Ferdinando back, and she is actually in upstate New York, but as I mentioned earlier, through the beauty of Zoom, is joining us again today. And she's going to be talking about financial retirement guidelines. And she does not have a visual presentation stuff, so you can just listen to her. It looks like most everybody's muted. I'm going to go in here and just mute everybody to make sure we don't have, again, woodpeckers and dogs and cats and lawnmowers going off. And then I'll ask Anne Marie to unmute herself. Find you here. There we go. Oh, you're off. You're good. You're good now. So we're ready to go.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to be with you again, coming to you from the beautiful Adirondack Mountains. It is a gorgeous day up here. If any of you have ever been up here, you kind of know I'm enjoying myself so much. But, let's talk about what's going to happen next, retirement. Because I have a little place here in upstate New York, and I might retire here. I'm at that age where I'm thinking about all these choices, and, a lot of us are going to get there. We have family members who are there. A lot of us are retired already, but there's always choices to make. And I think the choices is one of the most fabulous parts of being in this retirement mindset, or even planning for it. But once you get to the stage where you're almost there, where you have a few more years to go, the choices are an amazing thing. So I'm enjoying this part of life. I also enjoyed Suba's presentation so much because I see a lot of correlations with my topic today. And what I have noticed in my professional and personal life is that people are seeking guidance. Maybe due to COVID, more than ever. People are making choices, very deliberate choices. People are reevaluating life choices and changing it up. I think the pandemic had a lot to do with this. And as Suba said, don't do it alone. So, when that comes to decluttering, that comes to sometimes making important choices, having great conversations with people we care about. Don't do it alone. Because for me, family conversations are also on an uprise. Just this weekend, my daughter-in-law asked me to speak with her brother about home ownership. I am a mortgage loan officer as well. So it would be normal that they would look to me as a professional who understands, but I also like that it's family and they feel they can trust me and they want to talk things through with me. So, this young man is looking to buy his first home and he has a lot of questions, and we went through it all. And a lot of the things that we discussed, I'll share with you today also, because it has to do with that long-term planning, buying the home and then retiring. These are the two biggest times in most of our lives as far as financial decisions go. So yes, I'm a banker. I opened up the dialogue. I share ideas. In my professional life, young people tell me that they never learned about money in school or at home. So very often in a lot of school systems these days, we still do not have that as part of the curriculum, basic financial training. And at home, people either grow up in a household where their parents or grandparents don't really understand money or know how to speak about it, or sometimes it's just uncomfortable. But we can do better. You know, we really can. For me, a great pleasure for me is to provide financial education for the newly enlisted military. And it can literally be life-changing. What you guys all know, your life experience is very valuable. It's valuable stuff. You know, even if you don't haven't spent a career in finance, you've lived a life and you've learned a lot of things. You made some mistakes and you made some great choices. And that is all good stuff. People learn through storytelling, and we can all tell stories. Suba showed that too, right? Scott shared that awesome story about finding the money in his house. And you'll never forget that because it was a cool story. Storytelling is very valuable. So let's say we're talking to young people about retiring. And I'm wondering, did anyone ever tell any of you this? When is the best time to start planning for retirement? The answer, from your very first paycheck at your very first job. Now, that might be a new concept. No one told me that. I can tell you that. And in my 20s, I kind of spent all my money. I never thought about retirement. That was so long. Oh my goodness. You're 20, you're 22, you're 25, you're 30. It's going to be a million years before you retire. You can't even conceive of that thought, right? But if we made this a part of every financial conversation with all the young people in your life, and if they get serious about this, it's going to make a really big difference in their lives. The reason for that is saving is the most amazing concept in the world. Saving over time is really a concept that a lot of people don't know about. Some smart people did. Albert Einstein, who was kind of known to be a very, very smart gentleman, he called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. He knew that if you save money, it earns interest or dividends. And then as the money grows, that interest earns interest. And you save more money, which earns more interest, which then earns additional interest. It's like a snowball. So make a snowball in your mind and picture you packing that snow into that nice little snowball. Now gather more snow and pack it around the edges, and it grows larger. And just keep adding snow and packing it, and it grows larger and larger. This is the concept of interest compounding over time. Magical, magical thing, the eighth wonder of the world. Ben Franklin knew about this. So Ben Franklin said, you know what, I have two favorite cities, Philadelphia and Boston. I want to leave them a gift that they are going to thank me for, but they're not going to be able to thank me for a long, long time because I'm going to put $5,000 aside for each city. So $5,000, but they have to let it grow for 200 years. So for 200 years, that money grew and grew and grew and grew, and that $5,000 became approximately 10 million. 10 million. Now, it depends what story you read, that figure deviates a little bit. But the truth is, $5,000 became an immense amount of money. because it was earning dividends and growing. Now, remember Scott's story about the $300 in the drawer? Well, that money, no matter how long it was there, was still $300. But when you put money aside and invest it in some kind of plan where it can earn dividends, it grows. And as it sits there over time, it grows larger and larger. So Ben Franklin's gift was amazing. The two cities did wonderful things, provided education, scholarships, beautiful infrastructure for the cities, an amazing gift, and a life lesson for us all on something that this man understood a very, very long time ago, that your money grows over time. So as I prepared to talk with you about prepping for retirement, I could see how this really correlates with being financially strong throughout a lifetime. So when your family members come to you for advice, it's good for them, anyone nearing retirement or currently in retirement, to think about all these things. Simple things, like, let's go back to the basics for a moment. Everyone should have an emergency savings account. We learned that during the pandemic, especially, that people in great numbers do not have an emergency savings account. And again, the pandemic has opened our eyes to so many things. That was an important thing to open our eyes to. The importance of that cannot be overstated. So everyone, no matter how young, no matter how old, should have this emergency savings account. Small amounts of money consistently saved over time add up to something. A good rule of thumb is to have at least 3 months' income put aside, at least 3 months. You'll also read 6 months is ideal, and that is, but it's overwhelming to a lot of people, so they don't even begin. Again, this reminds me of so much what Suba was talking about. When you think about something in such a big picture kind of way, like decluttering your house, it seems overwhelming. Or trying to save a large amount of money so that you're well prepared for an emergency seems overwhelming. But taking tiny little bites will add up over time tremendously. So putting aside a little amount of money, something affordable on a consistent basis, every time some income comes in, setting aside a little bit so that when an emergency happens, and it will, because that's life, you have something to take care of that. It's an important concept for all of us, whether we're still earning an income at a job, or even when we're retired. We can all do this. Now, we can also declutter our financial house. So again, when we're nearing retirement, or even in it, do we still have a mortgage payment? Well, ideally, if you own a home, it would be nice to own it free and clear by the time you're retired. So how many of us have ever thought about making extra payments to principal of your mortgage? A little small bite, again, a small extra payment can add up to a lot. Let me give you an example. If you had taken out a $250,000 mortgage, $250,000 for 30 years and a 4% interest rate, your principal and interest payment on that mortgage would be $1,193. Now, if you had made that principal and interest payment of $1,193, you would pay it off over 30 years. And at the end of 30 years, you would own the home. But let's say you pay just $200 a month extra, $200 per month extra to that payment. You will actually lessen that time by 7 years. You will pay off that loan 7 years faster, so about 23 years instead of 30, and you will save $48,000 in interest. over the life of the loan. Now, what if you paid $400 a month extra? Just for illustration purposes, you will actually save 11 years. So instead of paying that mortgage for 30, you'll be paying it for about, what is that? 19. Sorry, I had to do my math. For about 19 years. And you'll save $75,000 in interest by paying just $400 more a month. It's interesting, a lot of people don't think about that. I'd like to advise people when they're looking at a mortgage, for instance, yeah, go for the 30-year loan, which is usually about the longest term that most people consider, 30-year loan, because your payment will be very, very low because it's spread out over so much time. So there may be times when things are a little tough, monthly, some surprises came up, and you can't afford to make an extra payment, but at least you'll know you have that nice low payment that is affordable. So sure, take the 30-year loan, but prepay. Pay a little bit more all the time. Get that done. Try to get that done before retirement. Preparing for retirement should include lessening or eliminating debt whenever possible. So very important, again, when we're approaching retirement, also important to share with young people who may be in their 30s, buying their first home. And I shared this with my brother-in-law the other day, and I explained to him that you don't necessarily have to buy the most expensive house you can afford. You can buy a little bit of a lesser house, pay faster to get it done. And he said he had never even thought of that. So share these tips and tricks with young people. It could make a big difference in their financial picture in life. Now, so say you're moving towards retirement, or you're in retirement and you want to lessen things, you want to declutter that financial house. Are you still carrying some debt? Do you have some credit cards, a car payment? Are these things a little bit stressful? Are they something you would love to eliminate? Well, there are tips and tricks for that as well. So one popular method is to pick your largest amount of debt and look at it with the largest or highest interest rate. So say there's a credit card with a 16% interest rate. Well, that's a high interest rate and you're paying a lot of interest, right? And so how about getting rid of that one first? So you put all your resources towards trying to get rid of that highest interest rate first, and you're going to save yourself a lot of money. And then work down. Then look at what else you have, pick the next highest interest rate, get rid of that one next. Then there's another tip that works for a lot of people. Look at the smallest amount of debt you have. So that credit card that say has a $500 balance on it. And you think, well, you know what, I can get rid of that one quickly because it's a small balance. So put any extra funds you have towards that. Work on eliminating that one, because when that's gone, that's going to be very inspiring. You're going to feel really good. That feels as good as when you clear out that room in your home and it's free and clear of all that stuff. It's that same kind of feeling of light and free when you get rid of that one debt. And now you're going to be inspired to go forward and do it for the rest. So those are two kind of great tips for people to start working on paying down debt, paying down mortgages. You want to build up that emergency savings account. Number one, most important thing we learned during COVID. We don't have it. Oh, the statistic was that about 65% of Americans, when faced with a $500 emergency, do not have enough money set aside to pay for that emergency. That's a shame. So I think the number one thing we need to all work on is building up that emergency savings. Small amounts of money add up. Number two, make a retirement budget. One common mistake is underestimating our expenses in retirement. So, you know, we might not sit down and plan. Plans are so important. Suba said this as well. Make a plan. I love a good old-fashioned notebook. I get my notebook out and I get my pen and I start writing. You know, most of us are visual learners. When we see it, pen and paper, there's nothing like it. So write down your budget, write down your expenses, really give it some thought and put it to paper so you can see it. And now you can create a great plan. Social Security. This is an interesting topic for all ages, because if you're collecting Social Security now, well, you know all about it. You have it. If you're looking forward to retirement and looking forward to collecting Social Security, there's a lot of choices to make. Do I collect it at the minimum age, which is 62? Do I wait? You know, each year that you wait, you'll collect more every month. Does that make sense for us? I don't know. These are all things to think about. So what age to start it? What age will you need it? If you're talking to young family members, will they have it? Important topic. Will they be able to benefit like we will from Social Security? It's controversial right now. If you haven't heard, no one knows. This Social Security system is struggling to maintain. There's so many more of us that are drawing from it more than ever before. And so there's a lot of talk how long those funds will last and will they be there for our family members. We don't know. We're all thinking about that. You know, it's funny. When my grandparents were getting ready to retire, I can still remember this because even as a young child of about 10 years old, I was really fascinated by finance. So I'm in the right business. And I remember being very interested in listening to what they were doing. So my grandfather lived in Brooklyn, New York. That's where I was born and raised, Brooklyn, and worked for New York Bell, which then became New York Telephone. He worked for that company since he was a young man, and he worked for them for 50 years. So long range work history with one place. Now, we all kind of know this is unusual, isn't it? Does this happen so much anymore? Not so much anymore. One person, one place for so long. And then when he retired, he got the gold watch. Remember that? The proverbial gold watch. And another amazing thing he got was a monthly pension payment. So he worked his whole life, and then he could count on a pension payment that would come in monthly and that would allow him to live in the lifestyle that he was accustomed to. But times have changed. So like I just mentioned, Social Security, it's here for us. Will it be here for the future? We don't know. Pensions are kind of the same thing. Companies are moving away from offering pensions for so many reasons. They're very, very expensive. And so it's not so much a thing that people get anymore. People have to take care of themselves more than ever. So now there's the 401k plan. That's the workplace retirement plan. And that's what most good workplaces offer, one of those, where you can contribute amounts of money from your paycheck directly to a plan. So again, up to you, you're contributing, it's going to a plan. If you're lucky, your workplace matches those funds. Sometimes it's 2%, 3%, 5% matching funds, whatever it might be, but that's a great thing because that helps you to save. But again, it's really up to the person, up to the individual to commit to such a plan and start putting money aside into it and allow it to grow. And again, we've found that statistically, people are not contributing enough to a 401k plan and do not have the funds they will need to live the lifestyle that they're accustomed to or the lifestyle of their dream. And isn't that what retirement's all about? Being able to live the way you want to live, to have choices. So this is what I'm talking to my young family members about. I see that it's helping, and I see that when you start opening that dialogue slowly at first, I must warn you, take it slow at first. See how receptive they are. And you'd be surprised, in time, it tends to get easier and easier to do so, to have these conversations. Now, let's go back to us right now. Those of us, we're nearing retirement or we're in retirement. Maybe we need extra income. Once you retired and you're done at a job and you really don't want to go back to another job, well, what do? Do you get creative? Sure, why not? What do you love doing right now? Maybe you can bring in a few extra dollars doing that. So I know a friend who's a military veteran and he loves antiques. Now, Suba was talking to us about that woman who goes around and she just keeps buying antiques and she has a house full. Well, my friend does it a little different. He searches for the best deals on the antiques. He only buys when it's a really good deal, when the price is low. Maybe the item's a little beat up. Maybe it just needs to be cleaned a little. Some of them need to be refinished, but he enjoys that. So he buys them low and he sells them. He sells them for extra income. You know, more than ever, people appear to appreciate the timeless, the well-made, the historic value, the charm, the solid beauty of furniture, of homes, things from the past that still have lots of value, just might need a lot of love. And there's a big appreciation for that. I think a bigger movement than ever before. So that's one way that my friend makes a little extra cash for his pocket and helps to supplement his income. Now, the other thing you can do is, like Suba said, sell your stuff, because like I say, there is somebody that probably wants just about anything. That, I mean, sometimes, you know, you've heard the expression, one man's junk, another man's treasure. You never know. You never know that somebody might actually like it. Suba had a picture of a beautiful Victorian settee in his presentation. And I saw that and I thought, yeah, so you have furniture like that and you think, my goodness, that's valuable. Has a lot of history and it stood the test of time. But trust me, your family members may think, oh, that old thing, no interest. They have modern, homes. They couldn't care. But there are lots of people who love that stuff. They really do. Lots and lots of people who have that style of home, who want to decorate with those things. You can sell that stuff. Oh, and we were talking about the Craigslist for the decluttering, and I just had to add that is absolutely quite the thing. We have done that as well. If you put it on Craigslist for free, put it out, just like Scott said, it's so fast and so immediate. And sometimes we had some old fencing. I mean, it was worn, it was old. I think we must have gotten about 13 or so calls on that fencing. People want to pick it up. It was gone so fast. So just about anything that you can think of, people are going to want. And that's wonderful, because think about the good we're doing for our environment as well. Your junk, someone else has a use for it, rather than throw it in a landfill. Wonderful. Cindy had that great group suggestion. I loved that. I hadn't heard of that exactly. So now you have a community of people getting to know each other, and you put it on the porch and someone picks it up and can use it. Amazing. I think the whole concept that I'm thinking about the most is people helping people, which was the whole concept of the credit union movement. And I work for Navy Federal Credit Union. It's such an important concept. People helping people. And whether we're decluttering our stuff or whether we're getting our financial house in order, we can all help each other. And sometimes it just starts with a great conversation. I really think that this pandemic has given us a new awareness, a desire to evaluate our life choices. I know so many people, many, who decided to retire during this past year that was not on the radar. They had no plans to retire, never talked about anything like that. One woman I know is very young, she's in her 40s, and she called it quits. Obviously, she was financially prepared for that. But these are new eye-opening decisions of the heart. That's where we're at right now. I think COVID, as hard as it's been, it's also given us some gifts of time and this desire to take a look at everything around us, from our home to our financial life to all the choices we make, and they're all interconnected, all of this, right? So I hope that you guys are having those conversations with family. I would love to hear if any of you are successful with that. I think it would be a great thing. I've noticed that I want to do it more and more, because as my parents aged, we didn't have those conversations. And then I've lost both my parents. And when they were gone, I realized I didn't know anything about their financial life or the things they had in their homes. And now it was on me to take care of all of that. And if only we had had these conversations or taken these steps now, it would have been easier for everyone concerned, well, especially me. It would have been so much easier. So I'm wondering if any of you have had the chance to have those kind of retirement planning or just basic financial conversations with your family. Is it possible? Is it working well? How is it going? Would you want to share? So I'd like to turn it over to you and see if any of you have anything like that to talk about.
Great, Anne-Marie, thank you so much. Well, so everybody on the call, feel free to unmute yourself if you have either a question or a comment to Anne-Marie's question. You can also raise your hand either visually if you're online as a picture, or you can raise your little hand in the Zoom chat situation, and I can recognize that. So anybody had difficult conversations with family members about saving for their retirement? I feel personally fortunate. My two kids have, we've certainly had conversations with them, but they seem to be on board with the retirement planning pretty successfully at this point. So that has worked well. I'm not sure that has anything to do with us, may have more to do with their own business education.
Yeah.
While we're waiting, I did have one sort of question to you a little bit, Emery. And I know you're not offering, formal estate planning or, financial advice to us here on the call, but I'm curious about your thoughts about gifting. I mean, there's obviously varieties of ways to gift to help your family members or relatives or kids with retirement planning. And obviously it is, annual giving, there's 529s. I mean, there's a variety, you can gift a variety of different kinds of assets. You can do it in different ways. I'm curious about, you know, those on the call that may have the opportunity to, you know, help relatives or kids with retirement. Do you have suggestions for the various ways to do that and what the advantages or disadvantages may be?
Well, I know that that is a very important topic as well, Scott, and I do know many conversations with professional colleagues of mine who are doing that for their children actually right now. Sometimes it's to help buy a home. That's a common one. So the gifting, there are all kinds of monetary regulations and as far as tax ramifications, and all, which I definitely am not well versed on. I'm not an expert on at all. But yeah, it's a great option. And I'm seeing more of that than ever. People not waiting to leave an inheritance, but helping younger people now when they're in the position to do so. And I think it's very gratifying because they get to, if you will, have that enjoyment of seeing them reach a better financial future while they're actually here to see it. So I think that's huge. Yeah, I do. Another thing I thought of, guys, is when you're thinking about if you'd like to have these conversations with your family, the internet is an amazing thing. So Benjamin Franklin did not have the internet, obviously, when he figured out that that $5,000 was going to turn into millions. He might have done that math the hard way, and that's far beyond me, I'll tell you, but we have it now. So you can go to the internet and just type in compound interest calculator, compound interest calculator. One of my favorite ones is called Money Chimp, like Money Chimp, C-H-I-M-P. It's so much fun to play with. And again, for young people, it's all about the internet. So they can do this on their phones and they can pull up this calculator and they can see how their little amount of money that they're going to contribute monthly for so many years at a particular interest rate, how it's going to grow. And again, as visual learners, this is amazing. Plus, you're showing them a tool that they can use throughout their lifetime. They can pull this up anytime and decide, well, I'm starting a new job. I want to do $500 a month to my retirement fund. How much money will I have over time? And it's very inspiring because then the next thing that naturally happens is they say, well, how about if I do 700 instead of the 500? How much will I have? And they'll notice the gains are so much greater. So again, visual learning, a great tool, helps in every way to show them. It's not just you telling them now, right, to save your money. It's actual something that they can sink their teeth into, and it's right there on their phone. So just a little tip for y'all. Any questions, anybody? And guys, if you have any questions about Navy Federal Credit Union, okay, I'm here for that too.
Yeah, and I do apologize, Anne Marie. I'm so used to having you on the call here. I've actually, and many people may have already known you, but I forgot to actually give you your formal introduction. She's the regional outreach manager for Navy Federal Credit Union, one of our primary sponsors for this event. And it's sort of like family now, so I forget to do her formal introduction when she comes on. But I saw a question in the chat from Rabab. It says, oh, what's the name of that tool again? I think she's referring to the Money Chimp tool.
Yes, that is Compound Interest Calculator. Compound Interest Calculator. You will love it. It's wonderful. I use it all the time. Yeah.
So speaking of calculators, I haven't done this, but you were talking a little bit about Social Security, and I know that sort of the timing of when people take their Social Security is a very individualized event. But I have been looking at this a little bit, and you know, there's the sort of, on the one hand, wait till you're 70 if you can, because obviously it maximizes your benefit. But I also have seen sort of generic, ROI calculations on that. And, if you're deferring 4 or 5 or 6 years of Social Security payments because you're not taking it till 70, it actually takes you a fairly long time to catch up, if you will, even though you have a larger benefit. And I suppose some of this comes into what your life expectancy, expectation is. But I had sort of been going along thinking, well, just wait till 70, obviously, but that may not be an obvious decision for everybody.
Correct. It may not. I mean, if you're working till 70 and you have a high income job and you don't need it, that's how I look at it. If you're not needing it, but like you say, it's so individualized because it's more than just the money. It's, when do you want to stop? Do you have other things you want to do? Is it time to move on? Because, we talk about life expectancy and none of us really know, do we? So that's the big unknown. Yeah. And so Social Security, they're banking on, if you put it off, then they're going to pay you less, obviously, right? They're going to pay you less if you put it off. But maybe it's time to collect earlier and go on and have the lifestyle you want to have and just go do what's fun for you. And if that's it, yeah. But I mean, I do know a lot of people who are working into their 70s, 80s even, who love what they do. They're collecting an income, but that's almost secondary because they love what they do. So they're going to keep doing it. It's such a personal decision based on what's important to you, isn't it? Really, yeah.
Good. All right, any other questions? I didn't want to monopolize the questions, but I had those burning in my brain. All righty. All right, it looks like you've solved everybody's problems. We're all successfully retired now, and and having conversations with our kids and grandkids about how to get here successfully. Well, listen, I want to thank Anne-Marie specifically again for another great presentation. And again, you'll have one more opportunity to hear her. And Sally Hermy will be back from AARP Virginia on the 8th of June. That's our last presentation in this series of Just Breathe. And I want to again thank our sponsors, obviously profusely, Navy Federal, a great partner with us in many ways, and also AARP of Virginia. And thank everybody for joining us today. And if there's no further questions or anything, we'll go ahead and sign off, and you can get outside and enjoy the cicadas. I saw my first cicada yesterday, so get out fast before they overwhelm your outdoor areas. Thanks again so much. Take care, everybody.